Hey guys, I'm about to go to work, but I just want to share this with us before I go. Ignorance is terrible, especially when you start having children, you start building your family. You cannot be ignorant when it comes to certain things. And at some point in life, you have got to be radical. And then you can't be radical without knowing what you're doing. That's where education comes in. And I always tell people don't always think about education like, limiting it to the four walls of a college, university, or a school of any form. Just know about your day to day living, your children, especially when it has to do with health issues. When you start having children, you need to read up, you need to know a lot. And I am going to share this short story. I remember around July 2018, that was shortly before we left Nigeria. My son was ill. I just went to school to pick him after school, and then I realized it was not doing well. He had this very, you know, um, low grade fever, and it didn't settle well with me because I know him. Anytime it's coming down with anything, that is how it starts. Before you know it, it gets worse. It starts throwing up and all that. So we went to the hospital. What I thought was going to take just maybe like simple treatment became something that nearly took my son. And this is where the testimony is. They started treating my son. As a matter of fact, they were giving all the treatment, using all the antibiotics and everything. This boy wasn't getting well. What's going on? What's happening? And the usual me, I wasn't finding it funny to the point whereby my son was unconscious. And I remember vividly, my mother was there with me. It was such a terrible scene. At some point, God bless my mother wherever she is, I could not even stand it. I had to run out of the room because he was just unconscious. At some point, it will come out of that unconsciousness. And at some point, there was a time he quoted the scripture, a young child that didn't even know the Bible. It just said, Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. And I was like, oh my God, where is my son? God, don't take my son. And he kept saying stuff like he was seeing angels. And I was like, then I became radical. And I was like, what is going on? You guys are doing everything, and my boy is not getting well. To the point that they did a lumbar puncture. Just Google what lumbar puncture is. And I was like, you're doing lumbar puncture? I know why you're doing this. But this guy doesn't have this kind of symptoms that will even make you like go to the extreme as to doing this kind of intervention, this kind of test. I became very fierce and like a mad woman. This was my son. I was like, no, he's not having this symptom, he's not having the symptoms. I didn't even know nothing next to being a nurse or being a doctor, but I just knew something wasn't right. And I stood and I changed the course of the treatment myself. I told them, I said, I do not want to see that pediatrician again. There was a pediatrician we used in the hospital before. It was the one that actually received my son when I birthed him. And he had been a pediatrician all along. But he stepped out to study. And so they changed their pediatrician. But I said, get me this doctor. Get me this doctor. Thank God for relationships. Guys, that's another thing. You must learn to keep relationships. Keep good. See, people, God will always use people for you. Thank God I had good relationship with all my doctors. So I had his phone number. When they were not ready to give me his phone number or call him to the hospital, I was like, okay, I'm going to bypass you guys. And I just put a call through to Dr. Ogumbosi. And I was like, doctor, can you please come down here? I don't know what they are doing here. Everything they are doing on my son is not working. I'm about to lose this child. But you are the doctor of this child. And under 1 hour, he drove straight down from UCH and he came to see us where we were. And he got there and he was like, what is going on here? Before he even examined my son, he said, this child has cerebral malaria. No, this is wrong, this is wrong. And he called the nurses, he called the doctor that was on call. It changed all the treatment and everything. And he wrote prescriptions, highest level of anti-malaria medication that I had not even heard about. And It changed everything. Saying, you guys are about to waste this child. My mother was like, really? I said, yes, mommy. I said, thank you, doctor. I hugged him, and that was the end. My mother said, thank you. And he left. Within 24 hours, what we had been battling with for days, we started to see changes. And within 48 hours, we were discharged from that hospital. And that was the end. We said, okay, that was the end. It was shortly after then we relocated. What am I saying this afternoon? I would have lost a child. I would have lost my son just like that. Guys, when you go to the hospital, go with your eyes open, go with your mind open, go with your spirit connected to God, and go from the point of knowledge. Always seek to know. When you go to the hospital and the doctor says this, that, get home, get books. Everything is just like on the internet these days. You can just Google it. What is this all about? You just want to know. Because I tell you, medical practitioners, we're all human beings. People make mistakes. And I was like, this particular pediatrician that almost killed my child is a very good one, according to them. But look at what he did. I don't know what was going on with him, but he was doing all the wrong things. He was doing all the wrong interventions, doing all the wrong treatments. But as a mother, I stood for my son and I said, no way, this is not going to happen. My son is dying and you're not even thinking, and you're still continuing a treatment that is not working. And I looked for the doctor myself. I called the doctor. The whole hospital were like, this woman is crazy. Of course, I was crazy. I had that child. I know what I went through to have my son. That's my child right there. I had to advocate for my son. He's right in there right now. I can call him for you to see that big boy right now that they would have wasted for me. And this has been the story of so many people that went to the hospital with their children or with themselves and never came back. And that's why I said sometimes you've got to be radical. But you cannot be radical if you do not know what you're doing. You cannot be radical if you have no information in your head, in your brain. You cannot be radical if you are not intentional about your life, if you're not intentional about the lives of the children ensured in your care. We are caretakers, guys. We are caretakers. We cannot afford to slack. We cannot afford to be careless. My mother, my father of blessed memory, my mother is still alive, my father of blessed memory, they were never careless. They were never careless. And my father, my mother taught me to be very proactive, to be very sensitive. At the slightest sign of symptoms, I can pick the frequency from afar. And I give God the glory. I give God the thanks. I carry my Bible, I carry the dictionary, I go to Google, I use my resources. When I was pregnant, I knew A to Z. I didn't even know I would become a nurse today. I never even saw myself becoming a nurse. But I knew A to Z about pregnancy, that when I went to see my gynae, it would be like, I know you already know everything I'm going to talk to you about. But for the sake of consultation, and I'm your doctor, I'm still going to go over it. I'll just laugh. Because he knew I wasn't talking to a dummy. And I had a very good gynecologist. But this one that wanted to mess with my son, I took him out of the equation. I went radical and I went crazy. And sometimes you need to get to that point. This is applicable to any situation, guys. School, marriage, children, ministry, your profession. Say what? Whatever, it is applicable. But guys, you cannot walk around empty-headed being radical. No, you cannot do that. You have to know ignorance is terrible. You cannot be ignorant, guys. As a mother, as a father, you cannot be ignorant. And God bless you. And this is the message for this evening. I'm heading over to work, 12-hour shift. I'll see you guys when next I come up online. God bless you and I love you all. Goodbye and have a very wonderful, wonderful night ahead of you. Bye-bye.